Welcome to Let Jesus Drink Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
And in this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out,
but actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
Oh my gosh. Hi, friends.
How exciting is this? I know we can't say that because that's the word that we always use, but I'm really I'm just elated because look at us doing what we love doing most, which is getting on here and chatting. I mean, we love our guests. Don't get me wrong. We love our guests, but it's been a minute since we've gotten to record just the two of us.
Yeah. It has been a minute and I've missed you so much. And I'm really sad that I only get this office backdrop for a little bit longer. You're moving and you're going to have the prettiest new office view.
I'm going to have a gorgeous office view and the backdrop will not look great for a while. And that's okay.
That's okay.
Right there. This is my nice little cozy nook for so long now. But if you saw the rest of my house right now, this is like the only thing that's still standing. It's really funny.
I feel like we need to have some sort of like send off for the office. Oh,
I know. So, or maybe I'll just do like you did and totally recreate it, the new place, and fake everybody out, and like it won't even look any different. It'll just be like, this is wait, is she in a new place or is she not?
So for the people that are not watching on the YouTube, which is most of you, I had these balloons in the back of me. And this balloon wallpaper I had in my old house. And when we moved, it was a white wall. And I had so many clients. Like I was really surprised being like, wait, we really need you to have the balloons back. And so I have one wall in this room with the balloons.
It just wasn't the same without the balloons.
The balloons are going to have to go wherever I go forever and ever.
The balloons and your gaming chair. Like, do people realize that you sit in like a gaming chair, which is hysterical because
I'm not a gamer.
Like, how did you? Well, yeah, obviously, but how did you end up with a gaming chair?
Well, I thought we haven't had this conversation ever. This was because when Chris was working for his law firm during COVID, they gave him a bunch of like allotment to buy home office stuff. And so he used like all of his allotment on this really nice gaming chair. So it's so ugly and it's so ugly, but it has the ability, I can sit cross-legged. It's got like a thing that shoots out of it. So my legs can go out, the arms go up and down. And so for me, who gets really fidgety and moves a lot, like it's golden.
But could they not make it are they discriminating against female gamers that might prefer a chair?
I don't think he would have gotten a female, you know what I mean? Because he did have to use it during COVID. And then I just inherited it. Now he wants that. And I'm like, no, but I like it because I can sit crisscross applesauce, you know?
I think when I first met you, I'm like, there's like, it's like the Where's Waldo, like,
it doesn't make sense.
No, the highlights magazines. We were like, what's the thing in this picture that doesn't
make sense? Yeah.
It was Christy in a gaming chair with balloon wallpaper in pink and like all the things. And then she's sitting in she's sitting in a gaming chair.
Do you remember when I tried to get the pink cover for it? Do you remember that phase?
No.
Yes, babe.
That makes me feel better.
But that would made it like look even uglier.
Well, I'm just so glad that you've got a nice to your posture situation going.
Well, and most of the current people don't see the gaming chair because I do my walking pad now, which I'm obsessed with.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Oh, that is one thing I've got to.
Babe, you have to get one for your new office. It's a game changer, I'm telling you.
Well, but someone the other day had the one that's like the steppy up and down one. I think I would be more coordinated. I'm worried about my coordination walking on it. Like, it's hard to do a treadmill when you're paying attention.
No. Trust me. If you do it on the low enough setting, it's totally fine.
Really?
Yeah. It actually helps me think. It's like what Elisa Keaton was telling us. Should we talk about something for the listeners or should we just catch up? What are we talking about today, Mead?
something so fun, so spicy. We're not afraid of it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's go. Let's
Yes.
go and get into
Yeah.
the let them combo, huh?
Yeah. So,
Shall we?
about 3 weeks ago, I wrote this Substack piece and it got such a reaction that we were then asked by some people to also do a podcast episode on this, right? So I'm like, Mead, we got to do this. So we're like, yes, we're doing it. So this piece that I wrote basically was titled "Why Let Them Misses the Mark and Letting God Lead Changes Everything." And so, if you've been living under a rock, we'll just tell you that there is a viral book that's been authored by Mel Robbins, Oprah Winfrey's new bestie, and it's all over the internet. And if you even have one pinky toe in the self help world, you probably heard of it. So I was literally actually I'm like, "I'm not gonna read that. I don't meh, meh, meh." And then someone who will remain nameless that I love, who's a Christian that I follow and I read everything she writes, said, "No, there's some really good things for us as Christians too." So I'm like, "Okay. All right. I'll give it a try." So, as you know, I listen to most things, and so I put it on Audible and was running around, and it slowly started to remind me why we feel the way that we feel about self-help now, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And it is because it is so self-focused. It is so about us. I have something on my mouth. I don't know what that was. Um, Helping ourselves and doing what we do and and following our heart and our gut and everything, and it leaves God and what we believe as Christians so much out of the picture. So before we dive in and go crazy, I'm just going to read this little this little teeny tiny synopsis about what this book is about. And maybe if you're listening to this, you read it or you follow her on Instagram, but it says, if they want to leave, let them. If they want to choose someone else, let them. If they don't support you, let them. If they don't want to invite you, let them. Stop wasting your energy trying to control or change other people. Let them show you who they really are. And then you can choose what you do next. And so this is the premise for the whole book. So, do you want to start by saying a few of the things that we feel like it actually
I,
might be helpful for, or what do you think?
I want to start by saying, because I don't want to go into this at all, but I just want to caveat this with that Kathy Phillips was a gal who wrote a
Oh,
poem called Let
oh,
Them,
yes, yes.
is where the whole supposedly let them kind of conversation started back in 2022.
Yeah, yeah,
And then Mel Robbins has turned it into a book. She used the same, idea to concept and now is teaching about it. So I just want to like caveat with we do know that the originator perhaps of this idea, this concept, this poem, it came from a poem, beautiful poem, um, was yeah, in 2022 from Kathy Phillips. But yeah, I think we should just talk about like where the appeal is. Like, because it is appealing. So yeah, like why is it appealing? I think it's catching on because it's a way of helping us maybe create agency again, like
yeah,
take our power back, not being controlled by other people's actions and things like that. So like on that from that standpoint, I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And to go back to what you said, and to just throw some more caveats here, we're not here to take down Mel Robbins. I actually didn't know anything about the Cassie Phillips poem until I put that Substack out there, so I didn't know that. But we're also not trying to take down anybody, but
Yeah. Right.
to we have to, I think, as Christians, as Christian women, think about things that are in this world trying to in the self-help atmosphere, right? Trying to pull up ourselves up by our bootstraps and help us lead a better life when they are not based in biblical truth. But to go back to what we were saying, how is this helpful? I think that the idea of let them, and I talked about this in the article, very much helped me in the Romans 12:2 way of the world is going to do what the world does. The people are going to drink what they drink. Your friends are going to keep doing what they're going to be doing. And And that's what the way the world's gonna look, but you're gonna look different, and you're gonna have to I should say, we get to live our lives in a different way, but I think in the beginning, when you're struggling with the alcohol battle and everybody else's noise is really, really loud, this idea of let everybody else just do them and you do you. We say this a lot too to women that are struggling with their husbands still drinking, right? It's
Yes.
like, let
Yep.
them. You focus on your side of the street because you focusing on your side of the street with alcohol is going to make your marriage stronger. And so I think it's helpful from that regard. What do
Yeah.
you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see the appeal and I like parts of it. And I also at the very basic level, I see that what we're trying to do, we're trying to use this concept to help us cope with the discomfort that we feel. So, like, let them is a response to discomfort that we feel. Because when we're saying let them, what has happened before we're saying let them is there's some kind of rub or off or discomfort or something that has maybe when it goes back to like what are we feeling, but we're kind of like skipping over what we're feeling and we're just looking to it. To me, it's another form of numbing out. It's another way of bypassing what is really happening. And so like I can see that's where I go with it. And I go
Yeah, it's good,
like,
babe.
yeah, and because it's the same way when our husbands are still drinking and we've started this journey and we're like, we're frustrated with that. And yes, it's like you've got to let this be your journey and you've got to let them do their thing 100%. But what's underneath that is the charge, the discomfort, the rub that you feel. And if we're bypassing that and putting just a different, it's just a different form of, escaping from what we're feeling. So I love to think about it from this lens of like, whether you find let them to be appealing and it does, like, it's like, yeah, do not be controlled by other people and what they're doing. Absolutely. There's some great wisdom in that. And also, if you're using it as a band aid for to try and feel better when you feel uncomfortable instead of turning to the Lord and saying and getting really curious about what am I feeling and what is God, you've made my body the way that you've made my body. I'm feeling something in my body. I'm having these thoughts. Help me, God, see what I need to see in this. That is going to offer lasting freedom from the discomfort or where you feel maybe stuck with someone who's doing something that you don't like or whatever versus this like kind of quick band aid.
Yeah. Yeah, babe, that's so, so good. I actually did not think of it that way. And when you were just saying that, it just reminds me of like when there's a situation where you are feeling like someone else is irking you and you're getting frustrated. And if that's like a consistent frustration situation, for me, the thing that always helps is how do I feel compassion towards that other person, right? We talked a little bit about this with Joe, which was such a great episode. You guys, if you haven't listened to the faith-filled therapist, Joe Hargraves, it's such a good episode. But it almost like blocks you kind of in a way, right? From doing that inner work. John Seidel, our friend who was also on the podcast, wrote an article, great Substack article on this as well. And he said, "Yeah, okay, let them, but what about forgiving them?" Right? So it's almost like a premature way, as you said, a coping mechanism without having doing any of the deeper work that we're taught to do in scripture, which is actually love them, forgive them, right? Forgive them, love them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It becomes a growth opportunity for us. It becomes maybe a healing opportunity for us. There's something maybe there that we're triggered by not getting invited or activated by not getting invited to the thing. Now that we're putting stringing together these free from alcohol days and we're not invited, and maybe that speaks to something that like is a response from the past. But like this is this great opportunity to turn to the healer, capital
Yeah.
H healer, the Lord, and say, like, okay, here's this opportunity for this. Dr. Kurt Thompson, MD, always, of course, comes to mind for me when he says that, like, when we're concerned about a loved one's behavior or someone's doing something that we don't want them to do, or, whatever it is, we're looking out there when we're like want to tell them what to do. I keep going back to the like the husband when they're drinking and you're starting this journey and we want to tell them don't do this, don't do that, whatever. what we're really doing is we're attempting to regulate our emotion. Like we're pointing to this underlying, there's an underlying need to regulate our emotion. And we're asking for something outside of ourselves to regulate that, which is super popular in this cultural moment that we're having. It's like
Yeah.
everything external, which again kind of falls into this like more, secular space too, where I could be happy based on what my circumstances are. That's where you find joy. But that's not true. I think I, it's just one of those where I see the appeal, and also I'm so reminded of how how not good we are, and whether
Yeah.
you've been drinking regularly or not, at maybe paying attention to how we're feeling and getting curious about that first, and then choosing a response versus I worry about the people that are like, oh, let them. And they're trying to let them, but they're really burning
Yeah.
energy trying to contain what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's going to come out later. At least it
Yeah.
did for me before I did all this
Yeah.
work 6 years ago. It comes out for me. And when I'm yelling at the kids or snapping at my husband or uh, stomping around, whatever, that's where it's going to come out if I'm not paying attention to what's happening in that moment. So
Yeah.
there's yeah.
Yeah. That's so, so good. Or in the case of drinking, right? It like bottles up and you want to numb it. You want to escape from it. Yeah. Yeah. All of that, babe. That's so, so good. I love that so much. It goes to the self-help situation, I think, at large, where it's a Band-Aid. It's like, again, like Joe Hargraves was saying, it's like the new age capitalizes on these things that actually, if you look further and you find what actually works in scripture, that will do the heart
Yeah.
change of it all, right? As opposed to like the easy Band-Aid that you can put on a tattoo, right? Like that's the thing. All these people have these tattoos now. But is that actually getting is that actually healing you? Is that actually sanctifying
Mhm.
you? Is that thing that was put in your path changing you, or is it just or are you just like brushing it off and letting them? Yeah.
Imagine stepping into a vibrant, warm community where faith, friendship, and freedom from alcohol all come together. That's exactly what you'll experience in the But Jesus Drank Wine community.
Each week, our members gather for connection calls that feel like a breath of fresh air, a time to share, grow, and support one another.
With an encouraging leadership team, a dedicated prayer request space, and connection opportunities in every time zone, you don't have to walk this journey alone.
Plus, we bring you masterclasses with expert guests, optional book clubs and Bible studies, and so much more.
And for those ready to go even deeper, we offer a small group coaching space called The Missing Piece. With weekly recorded coaching calls, it's a supportive place for women committed to breaking free from alcohol.
We're here to hold space for sober and sober curious women who love Jesus or are eager to reconnect with him. Wherever you are on your path, you'll feel seen, supported, and strengthened here.
As one member described, quote, the BJDW community is unique because there's a connection between faith and freedom from alcohol that I haven't been able to find in any other online space or through my church.
Ready to join the sisterhood? Head over to butjesusdrankwine.com/community or click the link in the show notes to learn more. We can't wait to meet you.
Yeah, exactly. It helps us ignore too, like how we were uniquely made by God to have the feelings and sensations that we do, to be clues to things that we need to pay attention to. It all comes back to control, right? It
Yeah.
all comes back to we feel out of control. Someone's doing something else that we don't like. We feel something about it. We can't control it. So let them is an attempt to regain control when really it, it maybe doesn't serve that. It also like we are in control. That's where it falls short from that like self-help standpoint because it's all about surrender to the Lord and his control and his I can't ever say
Yeah.
sovereignty. Sovereignty. That's such a
Sovereignty?
hard word for me. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, and I can never say that word. I can spell it. I can like see it. I
I'm
can
so glad you
never
can spell it, babe.
say it. I can spell it. I cannot say it. But yeah, like it comes back to like that need for control. And that's the in that self-help space, it is all about us taking our control back.
The part of, like, the let them theory that, like, really bothered me, like, where I actually had to physically, like, stop listening to it after chapter 7 or 8 or whenever I got to, was the second part where she says, "And then you can choose what you do next." And and so that, like, message, right, is, like, the first part is let everybody else do their thing, and then I'm gonna do what's best for me. I'm gonna follow my heart. I'm in control. I
Mhm.
have the power. I've got this. Me, me, me. And that was the
I.
part,
Mhm.
yeah, that was the part that I was just like, "Wait a minute." But if I was actually if that's what I was doing, if I was following my heart and I was thinking about, like, the days that when I was drinking, right? And those are I that's what I was thought I was doing. I was, like, following my heart. I was traveling and going out and, like, not putting the kids and the family first because I thought that that's what everybody else around me looked like they were doing, and so that's what I was supposed to do to be, like, a mom that was, like, actually nurturing myself as this independent woman, but
Yeah.
also, like, checking in with the kids, but let's not make the kids think that, like, I'm all about them because I have
Yeah.
this independent life with my independent friends and all of this stuff, and I really believe that, and one of the things that
Mhm.
breaks my heart, I wrote about it in the thing, was I really did, I think I said it out loud, was like, I don't want the kids to think that, like, all I
Mm.
am is a mom." Right? I wanna have and that lent to going out more, drinking more, having this, like, really busy social life, and that was what following my heart looked like. And so, when I hear the words, like, "Follow your heart and trust your gut and do and you do," and all these things, I'm just like, but that's what gets us into trouble, right? If I would have followed my heart, I would not be married
Yeah.
to Chris right now. If I would have followed my heart, I probably would still be drunk somewhere, right? And it's God calling me out of that life to something bigger, better, and different was really painful and it wasn't fun at times. But that's that's the part of this like theory that I was just like, no, 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 no. This is not resonating with me.
Yeah, that's so good. Always reminds me of Sharon Hoddy Miller's study that
Yeah.
I was like, oh, finally, words to describe what I have experienced. I love when that happens. I was in that world too. It was all about me. I didn't know it. It didn't look like it because it looked like I was taking care of all these other things, but I wasn't. I've said this before. Like I wasn't serving other people out of a place of like because of what Jesus has done for me. And so therefore I want to do that for other people. It was more there was some kind of probably hidden agenda. It was to look, like to look the part. It was all driven by me and that self-image maybe. And I think anything that keeps us focused more on ourselves is not going to be the ultimate thing that is going to lead to true freedom and peace and joy and all of things because it is actually not about us, which is fantastic news. There's
Yeah.
such relief in that. And that awareness of that I think comes, I mean, that could be really first for somebody to hear like me of 7 years ago. That's not a message that maybe could have been delivered to me and I would have taken kindly to. I wasn't ready for that, but I can see it so clearly now. So even just for the listeners who are like, I hear what you girls are saying, but I'm really uncomfortable with that. I mean, you don't have to make it mean anything right now. Just maybe be open to it and be curious about what that rub is. Like, you know,
Yeah. No, I totally hear what you're saying, and the
yeah,
second that you said it, I was like, I would not have been I would not have been receptive to someone saying,
yeah,
right? Because we are taught that, like, women, we can have it all, we
yes,
can do it all, we can be it all, and there is a freedom that I did not understand that we don't have to be, right? Like, we actually
mm,
don't have to be it all, hallelujah, right? And
there's freedom in that. Yeah.
there's so much freedom in that. There's so much freedom in that. And the more that, like, I get to know Jesus and the more that I read the Bible and
Mhm.
I just realize over and over again, like, how upside down the kingdom is, right? And it's a way that, like, if you have to know Jesus to understand the whole thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
When I remember actually it wasn't even that long ago, it was, like, probably before we moved out, so I don't know, maybe a year ago? I don't know. I was sitting in a church service, and the sermon was on Luke 9, and it was about take up your cross, die to yourself, follow me, all these things, and I remember being in the service praying, like, "Okay, I think I've done this. I don't I've done this. I'm here, I'm in church, I stopped drinking," but what I didn't realize ha ha ha, is that this is
Yeah.
an ongoing thing of dying to yourself and letting go of your desires
Mhm.
and figuring out what God has for you on the other side of that. And it is, we've talked about this before. It's not a fun process, but it's such a worthwhile process. And so, die to yourself, take up your cross is not as catchy probably as let them,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Because if you
Right.
said that to the average person, they're like, why would I do that? I'm in control.
Cool.
I've got this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I also think I want to take it in like a slightly different direction too. I think about we as Christians are like I think okay, I'll just speak from a personal example. Like with my husband, I love and care about him so much. And not with the example we used earlier. Like, he's still drinking and I'm not. If you're starting your journey, like that might be a separate, kind of example. But like in a situation where he's doing something that's maybe not great for him, or I just know that it's not how he wants to live, or it's not what he's aligned with in his values, or something happened. Like I, as his wife, because I love him in a kind way, I'm not going to just say, oh, let him do that. I'm going to lovingly like come to him and be like, hey, like what's going on. And I think that that's where sometimes this, if you put this like blanket catchy like thing, like let them, then it's easy for me to be like, it is just all about me and what I'm doing. But also in as a Christian, it's not, because Jesus came gentle and but loving and honest, spoke truth and love. And so if something has happening with someone that I really care about, I am I'm called to. That's part of my like responsibility as a Christian, is to lovingly, kindly speak truth to them. For my kids, it's the same way. It might be further that way. It'd be easier in a sense to just be like, I'm gonna let them. And I think that it reminds me so much of parenting, where there's so much that I'd love to just be able to say, like, let them, because that's easier. But actually, if I'm rooted in the truth of the word and what Jesus teaches, and if I'm taking my cues for how he does things, then I'm not going to just let them so that I feel better. Oh, my discomfort's gone. Oh, I feel better. Like, no, I'm actually going to lean into the discomfort and call my loved one out lovingly, kindly, for whatever they're engaging in that maybe is causing worry or fear on my behalf. I think there's a part of that too, where it keeps us in that place of like self help. It's all about me. I don't have to worry about anybody else, but that's
Yeah.
not, as Christians. We're not meant to live isolated by ourselves, just worried about ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when you were saying that, it just reminded me of, like, everything coming back to Second Corinthians 10:5 because I think and I remember thinking this before this whole "let them" thing, just about taking your thought captive, taking a pause, figuring out what's true, all of those things,
Hmm.
right? Because you don't have to get worked up and get activated and need to feel to drink or numb out if the kids, for example, have left their rooms messy. But listen, if that was something that had happened after a really
Hmm.
long day, that would have been a thing for me. But as you said, there is when you are focusing on what's going on in your brain and how your mind affects the way that your brain acts, which, by the way, you guys were so excited. We get to go on Dr. Lee Warren's podcast and talk about his 10 commandments. We're going to do our own basically riff on all of his amazing principles. I don't know. I'm so excited about that. But
Yeah, it's gonna be so fun.
When Dr. Warren talks about your brain and your mind being two separate things. And so that's the thing, right? It's again, it's it's so much more than just like letting them because yes, I don't get upset. Like, well, I mean, sometimes I do, let's be honest, but about the crazy, messy teenager rooms, right? But I will sit down with you. And as you said, if there's something that needs to be discussed, that needs to be lovingly brought to a
Mhm.
discussion, like, I now have the mental capacity to do that as well because I am no longer drinking, right? And so, again, it just
Yeah.
comes back to being really, really aware of what is going on in your mind. We've said it here a million times. If you're feeling any sort of way, discomfort-wise, what is your brain telling you? Your brain is probably telling you a gajillion and one things. Start by getting curious and becoming aware of what
Mhm.
all of those things are. And then you can decide some of those things that pop up might be a let them, right? There might be a let them or two in there, but also
Mhm.
could be things in there that need further attention that God's actually bringing to your attention for another reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we're not having that conversation, if we're not turning to prayer and inviting him into that, then we're potentially missing what could be benefit, could be good for us. And maybe other people who like the ripple effect is so much greater. But when we're just trying to isolate, trying to do it in an isolated fashion of, oh, okay, let them. And then maybe we don't really feel that way. Maybe that doesn't feel really you don't feel peaceful after that. It's because there is something there. And how often did I get in my own way where, gosh, like I can look back and think, gosh, there was probably I'm sure there were a million opportunities that the Lord had for me to respond to things in a way that grew me and grew me more like Him than the ways that actually I chose. And we don't want to get in the way with that of that. And also we don't want to get in the way of that for other people too. I think about I'm talking with a client recently when we're worried about our spouses or we're worried about other people and we have that like we want to tell them what to do or we want to try and be in control of their situation or whatever. We want to jump in, we want to fix, we want to solve instead of saying I'm just going to swinging the other way and just saying, "Oh, I'm going to let them." We can bring them to the Lord and say, "Okay, God, what do you I don't want to get in the way of what you have. So I'm not going to just let them. I'm going to turn to letting God do what only God can do in this situation versus this like kind of backwards way of trying to control what isn't mine to control."
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
so
It's
mhm,
so self-focused. It's so self-focused. All self-help is obviously very self-focused. And we are not on this planet to somehow come out as some, like, best version of ourselves for ourselves, right? We're on this planet to come out as a best version of ourselves, as a sanctified version of ourselves for God and the purposes that he has us here, right? And yeah, I mean, I just think of, like, watching the Gather 25 stuff this last weekend and all the whole mission of trying to get the word and the gospel into every far corner of the world. That's not a let them message, right? That's like a go after them message.
yeah,
Find them.
because because like we care about people's souls.
Yeah.
Like we can't save their souls, but we care about people's souls and that we want people to know about Jesus. And it's a very opposite message of let them, oh, you do you, let them over there. So for the listener, we're not saying that like blanket statement, stay away from all self-help and it's all terrible and whatever. Like we're not don't hear that. Self-help was valuable to me to an extent in my journey. It definitely was a stepping stone for me to getting to freedom from alcohol, but it wasn't the full picture. And so we also don't want to like cast like a blanket, like all self-help is bad. Like we can see it now for sure. I mean, who needs self-help when we have the Bible? You literally don't need it. But before that, maybe self-help is a stepping stone for somebody else. And this is what I would say it all comes back to this whole let them conversation. All of it to me, the thing that just keeps coming up is just curiosity, curiosity, curiosity. If we come from a place of curious, if we're more curious about what we're experiencing, what we're thinking, taking our thoughts captive. If we're curious in that, what am I feeling? What has me like feeling off right now? Yes, I want to let them do that, but I not like there's still like this rub that like what is this about? Self help. There is parts of it that can be helpful. The Dr. Lee Warren likes to say this too. Uh, There are parts of it that are helpful, but it's not the full picture. So whether you're all for let them, whether you're all for self help or not, wherever you are, curiosity about what you're feeling, what you're thinking, that's going to be the answer to all of it. That bringing it to the Lord and in a curious place and like saying like, okay, what do you want me to see in this? What do you say about this? What do you want me to know about this? Where do you want me to use let them or not use let them? Or should I use let them? Like that's the greatest gift that we have as followers of Jesus is like we don't have to have the answers for how to do all these things. We get to just bring what we're seeing, experiencing, noticing, whatever, and bring it to him and he will give us the solution, the fix, the answer, the comfort, the peace, he will give us everything that we need for that. And so it's not all up to us. And through curiosity, that being such a great first step to activate the smart lady brain and get us out of that place of emotional dysregulation. I just think curiosity, like humming that, and then bringing that before the Lord, like what else do you need?
Yeah, yeah. And you bring up such a good point. It's we got into what we do now, right, with
Uh-huh.
a secular self-help coaching certification. I think another important thing to notice is what and this is the other thing that irks me about the Let Them Mel Robbins thing, right, is if also if your self-help or whatever you're trying to use to shift the emotion to feel better, to do whatever you're trying to do to change your behavior is a method where another author, guru, specialist, whatever is the center of it or the tactic becomes the center of it and like we do not have to go into the enneagram right now if you do not want to but like that just reminds me of like if you are so caught up in a
Mhm.
tactic or a method or following a person. Listen, Mead and
Yes.
I, like God, we're just like saying yes to God because he gave us his podcast and this ministry, and we will keep doing it. But we also don't want this. And we say this all the time. We don't want this to be about us at
Mhm.
all. Right. And so that is another thing to really, really look at. If there's something that you're really like knee deep in and you haven't questioned it and you haven't run it through truth and
Yeah.
you haven't wonder how this checks out with the Bible. It's just something to get curious about, right? Because you and I have
Yes.
seen it a million times where it's the author or the person, and then people end up taking everything that that person says as gospel. And there is only one gospel. You guys, I worked really hard on writing my book. I don't want you to take my book as gospel. There's a lot of gospel in there,
Yeah.
but it's not
Yes.
about me, right? And it's not about
Mhm.
and by the way, and I know I've said this a million times, but I think the most hilarious thing, ironic thing, whatever you want to call it, is that any and everything that has resonated with us, that has helped us, that has
Yes.
pulled from a
Preach.
secular
Preach.
self-help thing, right? It is every major life coaching main tactic. It is cognitive behavioral therapy, and all of that is Second Corinthians 10:5. You know what I mean? It is, or Philippians 4:8. It's there already, and so if something is also really, really helping you and resonating with you, and you haven't fact checked it, like, against the Bible, just do it for fun, or DM one of us or email us and, like, have a chat with us about it because it's all there, you guys. It's all there.
Mhm. Yeah. Who knew? Who knew? I did not 7 years ago.
I didn't either, and also, by the way, we don't want this to come off as because I remember having a conversation with someone when we were in New York together, right? And they were like, "No, but like this, and it gave me this, and this book gave me this, and all these things." And it's so funny because that person now on our leadership team, shout out, you know who you are, is like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, you're so right. Like it's so all here. It's so
Yeah.
all in the Bible." So if you're And listen, if you're excited about the books that you're reading and they're helping you, listen, more power to you. We've been there. We get it. As you said, there's a place for it. But just be open, be curious that the things that
Yeah.
are helping you, that are really resonating with you, that are really changing you might already be in the Bible.
Yeah.
If they're not in
Yeah.
the
Like,
Bible, they're probably not something to get tattooed on your arm.
oh my gosh. Yeah. I bet our listeners would not guess what our Tina is today.
We
Does
should actually
anybody have any clue what
go
our
back
Tina
and
is?
count how many times this has been the Tina. We will give 5 gold stars to someone if they can go back and count how many times this has been the Tina. Go ahead. What does it need? You do it so beautifully. Never heard it before.
Never heard it. First time ever. Get curious, people. Turn to curiosity. When you feel like let them might be a good response to something, you don't have to say, oh gosh, I can't say let them. Say, oh, I'm noticing that let them would be what I want to say right now. Okay, I'm going to get curious about that. What am I feeling that prompted this need to say let them, or you do you, or whatever fill in the blank kind of way of attempting to deal with our discomfort? Get really curious. What are you feeling in your body? Okay, God, this is what I'm feeling. What do I really need? What is this telling me? What are you trying to reveal to me? What do you want me to see? What am I here to learn in this? Help me, God, feel better. Help me, God, see what you want me to see in this. Help me, God, choose my response to this. What do how do you want me to respond to this? So there's a lot in that, but I mean, basically it's that turn to curiosity in the Lord with the Lord. That that's the only thing we need. Really.
Yeah.
It's
And
prayer.
yeah,
Prayer.
so good.
Which
I
is another way of saying prayer, by the way.
Yeah, can I please end with Matthew 11? Because when you were speaking
Sure.
just now, this is the thing, right? Matthew 11:28. Are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. This is the message translation, by the way. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. And I just think if we take out, are you
Hmm.
tired, worn
Amen.
out, burned out on religion, and we swap that to, are you tired, worn out, burned out on self-help. You guys, if you're burned out by all this stuff, you don't there's a better way, and it starts with curiosity, as Mead says.
Amen.
Oh,
I love that so much. So good.
so good
So
to be
true.
back with you, babe.
You too. This was so fun.
So
Let's
fun.
do it again soon.
All
Like
right.
tomorrow.
All right, gals. See you next Monday. If you're listening to this, we're probably well into, or just like maybe at the beginning of our Lent 40-day fast. But if you haven't checked out, if you haven't checked out our amazing, our wonderful, wonderful community, there's a link to the show notes and that. It's a really, really special place.
Oh my
My
gosh.
favorite place in the whole world.
I know. It's isn't it crazy how the Lord was prompting us to do this, thinking that this is what we were doing for other people, and yet it's exactly what we need to do. Like
Yeah.
I can't even believe it. It is a special place. Ah, I love
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
in
Come
that
hang out with
community.
us,
So
you
good.
guys. We would love to meet you if we haven't already. All right. We'll see you next Monday.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us again this week. You can find all of our episodes at butjesusdrinkwine.com and be sure to follow us over on Instagram, Love Life Sober, and I'm Not Sober, I'm Free.
To learn more about what we do, you can visit our websites, meethollandshirley.com and lovelifesober.com.
Take a screenshot of this podcast and share it with a friend or two.
And don't forget to subscribe to our pod so you don't have to worry about missing a single episode. And if you love what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify.
This helps more women who are feeling stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle find hope and encouragement.
Thanks, ladies. We so appreciate you, and we'll see you next Monday.